DAOs. So today we will make a bit more, not fun presentation, but we'll just go a bit through some metrics, try to find some hidden insights or what's interesting going on in the DAO space. I would like to make a disclaimer in the very beginning that the data that will be shown here is based only on the snapshot data, because we respect all the other DAO operational systems or sources of information like Aragon or other systems, but we didn't have much time to make a deeper analysis, so whatever we will see here will be based on the snapshot public data available in Dune and Flipside Crypto. So what's interesting about the DAO space, so it seems like it's growing on the bear market, and we see some recent quite significant spike in the spike in the amount of the voters that appeared recently in the DAOs, but later I will explain where the spike actually appeared. But nevertheless, you will see that the charts are growing, and we will show it shortly. So the significant spike we can see somewhere starting like April this year, and you can see that maybe it grew twice in the activity. So the question is why? What happened like since April that in the DAO space all the metrics grew twice, more or less? So first of all, there was an interesting vote from the Linea build.eth. Linea is the new player in the scene. I think they're building some zero-knowledge proof chain, and they will have an event during the EthCC. So when they made a proposal on the snapshot, there were more than 2.7 million unique voters who voted on this proposal, and people were selecting like which swag to select. So actually here we see exactly this one spike. So this is Linea.build appeared on the market, and there was plus 2.7 million people. But interestingly, snapshot data that is channeled into Dunes, it hides this information. I don't know why. Maybe a snapshot team themselves asked to hide it, maybe other reason, but it's not reflected on this chart. So this information, it excludes the Linea build. And even without the Linea, we still see the significant growth in the active voters. Where do they come from? So as I said, starting April, we see something like more than 5K new spaces on Snapshot appears. And this, in these 3 months, something like in all the previous year. So the last 3 months, they did in the new spaces the same growth as the year before. And the top 100 spaces, they all have at least 100 voters. So every space is quite actually active community in terms of voters. So if this trend will continue in this way, then we will see expand like DAOs or spaces or ecosystems with different participants. Maybe it will be also one of the signals of the upcoming bull market. We don't know. But we can say that in the last 3 months, it was quite a lot. But there is also some champions in this space that appeared quite some time ago. For example, Stargate DAO. So Stargate DAO is one of the... Stargate is a project that doing the cross-chain swaps, I think, or if I remember correctly. And their DAO, in terms of like voting and participation, it's also growing quite fast. And they're a champion because all the metrics like growing like crazy among the long-time existing DAOs on the snapshot. So we can build some charts and dashboards. You can find them in Dunes if you go to the Goverland team. We do some in-depth analysis of different spaces or DAOs. So you can analyze there some information like how many unique voters this space have, what intersections with other spaces these voters from this space have, or how many people came to the DAO space through the space. So they were the very first voters. For example, for the Stargate DAO, they have roughly 70% of the voters that are exclusive just for them. So these people, they don't use any other space. They are just interested in snapshot only in Stargate DAO. But also, what is interesting, their voters, they have intersections, like you can observe with which other spaces, for example, voters of this space has the most intersection. And Stargate, they have the most intersection with the Arbitrum ecosystem. So GMX is a product exclusive for Arbitrum, Arbitrum Foundation. So it seems like a lot of people from the Arbitrum ecosystem, they are just interested in this space. Also, you can see the charts, like how many people voted only once, twice, or here from 5 to 10 or more than 10 times in this space. If you analyze, for example, Stargate, you can see that it's not like people came and left, that they are returning, they're voting all the time, so they have a good retention. Another interesting champion is Aave. Aave is one of the oldest projects in the ecosystem. So they have a very strong and vibrant community, and this community already launched a lot of products, and I think recently Aave announced Go stablecoin. So this is the company that constantly producing some innovations, some new projects. And regarding their metrics, their monthly base active users is constantly growing. Maybe it's not as big as like other projects, but if you look in them, this ecosystem is growing. They have much lower share of exclusive users, meaning that their users, these users who are in general interested in the broad space, and they participate in the many other spaces. And if you see in which other spaces the users participate, you will also find that this will be Stargate, it will be Lancer, which is a protocol from the Aave founder, or some other ideologically connected spaces. But what makes Aave a real champion in this graph is that the most amount of the users who participate in this space are actually users who voted more than 10 times. So it's like a very strong core. And if you look in the retention graphs, so the blue chart is existing voters, and the red chart is new voters. So you can see that in the spaces like Aave, the retention is super high. So it's people who are strongly committed to the space, and they're returning all the time. And at the same time, if we compare it, there is no comparison. For example, for the Stargate, if you go to the chart, you will see that the new users' share will be much higher than the returning user share. What else interesting insights we can get in the snapshot based on the data that we have? For example, I don't know if many heard of the project like Crypto 435. It's a quite new narrative for us, but we see the space. They created only one vote without any options. You can select only and say vote, yes, I support it. So it seems like projects experimenting with a snapshot, not even in deciding on some options, but also like signing petitions. So basically it's just a vote with only one option, and if you want, you vote, and it sounds like a petition. So in this case, this project, they have only one vote, one petition that lasts for 1 year, and they collect the signers who would like to push the topic of regulations in United States. So also quite interesting usage of the snapshot like a product. As I said, the significant growth in the metrics, they were also because of some outliers. Outliers like Linera Build that bring 2 million users, or some recent new projects that by some their marketing channels, they bring a lot of users to the snapshot to vote on something. If we remove some top 5 outliers, so people that appeared from nowhere and brought a lot of users, like hundreds of thousands, and just remove them from the space to understand, okay, how the long tail of the spaces feel on the snapshot, we can still see quite stable kind of growth of the ecosystem. So nevertheless, the market is bare, but the communities that are participating on the snapshot, they experimented more and more, creating new spaces, creating new votes, and all the metrics are growing there. So it's a signal that something is happening interesting. And a lot of this information, it's hidden. So like, I think that 99% of the people, they just don't see it or don't know it or don't know where to look into it. And I'm not saying only about the, how to say it, public metrics like retention, weekly active users, whatsoever, there is a lot of interesting insights that are hidden. For example, a lot of people talking about different types of the voting. Yeah, on Snapshot you can have 6 different voting systems, for example. But if we see the single choice voting and basic proposal voting, which is like subset of the single choice. Basic proposal is where you can select for, against, or abstain. It's like one of the 3 options. Single choice, and when you can provide more than 3 options, and people still need to select one of them. So these 2 types of the proposals, they will have roughly 98% of all the participation. So, for example, in the community, there is often an open question. Okay, this single choice voting is not, how to say, not relevant, but maybe not so good. Like, how about quadratic voting? How about others? But if you look in the real data on like what people and what the spaces selecting to use, it will be still that single choice and basic proposals 89%. So I don't know how many of you knows, but for example on Snapshot, the unique value proposition of the snapshot that you can install per one vote several strategies. One strategy is a JavaScript that calculates how do you calculate the vote in a single proposal. For example, there might be strategy ERC20 voting, so the DAO need to have ERC20 token and like one token, one vote. Or the strategy might be NFTs or delegations or whatsoever. But if you look into the popularity of the strategies, we still see that the ERC20 balance off is still kind of the most popular strategy. But also we see significant share of the ticket. And what is ticket? Wait a second. I will come to it shortly. As I said, like you can use different strategies in different votes, but absolute majority of the spaces, they still using only one strategy for their DAO. So they're not experimenting too much with the strategies. If something works for them, they just stick to it. But in recent, like since this April, when all the metrics go up, we see a significant increase in 3 strategies. First, the red bar is a ticket. So ticket strategy is like you do not attach your users to ERC20 token balance. But you can say, okay, you can be just an Ethereum address, validated on Gitcoin passport, and this will be your ticket. So, and we can see that this type of voting increasing a lot, meaning that the DAOs, they actually, or the new spaces, they're removing the gates. They're not creating the gated communities. They just want to be open to everyone and interested in having more participants. That's why they're creating the easiest possible way to participation in that space. And this is the ticket one. The purple one is whitelist. Whitelist is again just maybe some people pre-applied for some event and then they just put it into the whitelist and people can vote. And the yellow one is if balance. Very simple strategy. If citizen, if you have some balance or like non-zero balance in Ethereum, you can vote. So these kind of voting systems, they got a lot of traction recently, and it's just an interesting trend. Maybe it will be something defined in the future. We don't know yet. I don't know if you know, but on Snapshot you can also delegate a vote. So delegation is the principle when you can, for example, in many recent airdrops, during receiving airdrop, you needed to delegate your vote to someone so the DAO is alive. It was with the Optimism, with the Safe, with many other quite big and significant DAOs. But not many people know that on Snapshot you can actually delegate your votes as well. You just need to make an on-chain transaction for that. It will be on Ethereum or in other contracts in different chains. But you can actually parse this data and see how many people delegate their votes on the snapshot. We can see that it's not super popular. People still delegate somehow. They use it, but it's not kind of super trend. So there is a lot of open questions if delegation as a problem solver for spaces of the future will be a trendy solution. And we see some leaders in the delegation, so those who collected the most delegated voting power to them. One of them is Rabbit Hole. Rabbit Hole is just a project that makes the delegation to them as part of their onboarding experience for the users. They're just doing some quests, and inside this quest, people need to delegate the vote to this project. That's how they accumulated a lot of voting power on the snapshot, for example. But there is also others. But in general, we don't see like some very active delegates community or some DAOs focus on the delegations and collecting the except like Rabbit Hole. That's why all the direction, at least that is happening on the snapshot, is just user doing their own choice. Not like delegating the power because they have tokens, but rather they want to have fun experience. The gates are open for them with a ticket, with Ether balance or whatsoever, and they just want to come and participate because they have their own reason. Maybe it's just fun. So I just wanted with this short presentation demonstrate some thoughts that you might think of. So first of all, DAOs in general as an ecosystem, they have traction even on the bear market. So this is field of the Ethereum, which was not spoiled with the high yields before. And it seems like new people come into the space just because of interesting stuff, some interesting narrative to experiment with. And of course, on Snapshot, not every space is a DAO, but like a lot of spaces are DAOs, or the idea is the same. Community that have a voting power, it can decide on something, and maybe then this decision can be enforced. We also see that signals about the growth of the DAOs that are a long time on the market, or the information about the retention of the users, how sticky these DAOs, or the spaces, can be quite interesting and strong signals for potential investors. And we see significant growth of the new users from the spaces that experiment with the snapshot in new narratives. So one of the narratives that we saw is the polls. People just doing the polls on the snapshot, and people want to participate because they want their opinion to be heard. Another narrative is the petitions. So as I demonstrated, like you can create a vote with only one choice, and just for the 1 year collecting votes who want to sign it. So it's also quite interesting way to experiment. Yeah, as I said, even if we exclude some outliers, some like quite big projects with a lot of marketing budgets that somehow brought a lot of users to Snapshot, even with a long tail projects, so like with a fewer community, it's still growing. And this is a good sign for the DAO ecosystem. And it seems like based on the latest graphs, that the right way to go is actually lowering barriers on participation, not making the closed communities, but opening up your DAO, your spaces, to the less restricted way to participate with strategies like ticket, ETH balance, or, I don't know, whitelist is gated experience, but still they're becoming popular. And this might be interesting. So what we actually doing at Goverland, we in general, we try to create open source infrastructure and protocol to make DAOs and spaces accessible to as wider amount of users as possible. So we build an open source protocol, we build an open source SDKs, and our vision that this governance experience should be organically integrated into mobile wallets, into other interfaces. It should be super accessible to people and easy to use. And we see a need into an aggregator, because we don't believe that there will be some one solution like Snapshot, Aragon, Snapshot X, or XDAO, whoever. We believe that there will be a lot of different tooling for different purposes, but people still keeping their tokens in their wallets, and they want to have this governance experience in their wallets. So it's quite logical that this DAO experience is becoming like first-class citizen in any wallet. The same like NFTs, ERC20s, or any other tokens. We want to facilitate it. We are for accessibility, for better communication between DAOs and their users, and for the transparency. So we're happy to say that we just launched our Goverland Alpha. You can go to the test flight, you can download it, and we are happy to receive any feedback from you as a user. There you can easily follow different DAOs, receive notifications. We are going to enrich all the information with some graphs that are shown here, like weekly active users, retaining users, delegates activity whatsoever. So we want to create a high quality data inside your pocket, so you can go to any DAO and to see a lot of information which is hidden to you, or to see some trends which is hidden. So this is why we are creating our own mobile application on top of the open source protocol that we built. I think this is it that I wanted to tell you. We have some time for the questions if you have any, but feel free to approach us. We sit there in that corner if you want to know more, or if you want to provide us feedback on our mobile application, we're happy to receive it.